What is a true fact that sounds like a conspiracy theory? The dolphin LSD experiment. NASA put a woman in a room that was flooded up to her hips and let a dolphin loose in there to live with her in order to attempt to teach the dolphin to speak English, and LSD was later used on the dolphin to see if it had some kind of reaction and if it affected its speech lessons. Johnson & Johnson knew there was asbestos in baby powder for 40 years. The reason only the orange variety of carrots is widely available is because the Dutch like the color orange. They leverage their powerful trade networks to make it so. The US government forcibly sterilized minorities until the 1970s. 50% of Native American women were sterilized between 1970 and 1976. Some women were told they couldn't receive welfare unless they were sterilized first. Some were told they would no longer receive healthcare if they refused. Some women were told that the procedure was reversible when it was not. Some women went to the hospital for something like a tonsillectomy and were given hysterectomies while they were unconscious. It's amazing to me that this isn't widely known. The US conducted a fake vaccination drive to find Osama bin Laden. The Nayara testimony that built public support for the years to back Kuwait in the Gulf War 1992. TLDR, a 15-year-old girl testified to the Congressional Human Rights Caucus that she had witnessed Iraqi soldiers take babies out of incubators and leave them in the floor to die. This was widely publicized in the US and essentially led to the US's involvement in the Gulf War. It was later discovered the girl was the daughter of the Kuwaiti ambassador to the US, and the whole thing was organized by a US marketing company to generate outrage against Iraq. The US government tested drugs and chemical weapons on its own soldiers and various animals during the Cold War at the Edgewood Arsenal facility. It's also where we got bulletproof vests and some vaccines. If you want to ruin your day, look up Bad Trip to Edgewood. Years ago, the big light bulb, as I like to call them, decided to purposefully turn down the lifespan of light bulbs to sell more, and the companies who didn't agree were alienated from trading with primary sources for light bulbs. The Monster Study. The Monster Study was a stuttering experiment performed on 22 orphan children in Davenport, Iowa in 1939. It was conducted by Wendell Johnson at the University of Iowa. Graduate student Mary Tula conducted the experiment under Johnson's supervision. Half of the children received positive speech therapy, praising the fluency of their speech, and the other half negative speech therapy, belittling the children for speech imperfections. Many of the normal speaking orphan children who received negative therapy in the experiment suffered negative psychological effects, and some retained speech problems for the rest of their lives. The FBI was constantly stalking Ernest Hemingway, and that led to his suicide. But why? Ernie liked to travel to Cuba. Cuba even made a stamp of Hemingway. Hemingway, being extremely popular and a world-class writer, could very quickly and effectively sway public opinion if he wanted to by publishing a well-written book or essay. The FBI didn't want any surprises. Edit, spelling. Project Sunshine, in which the US government, in the wake of dropping atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ordered a major study to better understand the effects of radiation exposure/nuclear fallout on the human body, so an international network of agents was recruited to locate recently deceased children and steal body parts from them to use for testing. The CIA has a real deal heart attack gun. It was exposed to the public in the 70s. Edit, here's an article/video about it. Not only does the US Gov have a heart attack gun, it also has other means of sci-fi spy weapons, such as mounted radar dishes that can cause mass hysteria for crowd control via high pressure frequency waves, among other crowd manipulation devices. Edit, just a clarification, I did mean the microwave gun. I was both intoxicated while writing this and pulling what little bits from my memory I could. Many users below have figured out what I meant. Sorry for the confusion and word jumble. I'll try and do better next time. Operation Paperclip. Recruit Nazi scientists and insert them into key government tech operations after WWII. This is how the world transitioned from the German V2 rocket to NASA and the ICBM in the span of 30 years. After the war ended, we were snatching up crowd scientists like hotcakes. You don't believe me? Walk into NASA sometime and yell Heil Hitler. Whoop. They all jump straight up. Malariaja. In 1999, Russia killed 300 of its own innocent citizens and injured 1,000 more through a series of terror bombings of apartment buildings. The goal was to motivate public support for a war in Chechnya and to bring Vladimir Putin to power. It worked. Some of the perpetrators were caught red-handed by local law enforcement. After they were caught and identified as federal agents, the FSB said it had been a training exercise. The evidence is considerable and damning. Divulging details about the plan is also the reason Litvinenko was poisoned. It's entirely possible to receive your tax forms pre-filled by the US government. They already have all your information, and this is the way it's done in other Western nations. Unfortunately, the owners of TurboTax have paid off enough congressmen to keep it from happening. In fact, they are not content with just stopping it. They want to make sure it's impossible forever, and they are about to succeed. Happy Tax Day. The ancient Egyptians had a pregnancy test that actually worked. I'm listening. 1350 BCE, one of the earliest written records of a urine-based pregnancy test can be found in an ancient Egyptian document. A papyrus described a test in which a woman who might be pregnant could urinate on wheat and barley seeds over the course of several days. If the barley grows, it means a male child. If the wheat grows, it means a female child. If both do not grow, she will not bear at all. Testing of this theory in 1963 found that 70% of the time, the urine of pregnant women did promote growth, while the urine of non-pregnant women and men did not. Scholars have identified this as perhaps the first test to detect a unique substance in the urine of pregnant women, and have speculated that elevated levels of estrogens in pregnant women's urine may have been the key to its success. Lobsters can't actually die of old age because they have an enzyme that replicates some of their DNA or whatever throughout their life, but they can die of anything else, for instance disease, consumption, etc. So if you think about it, there really could be just a huge lobster like the size of a VW bug chilling in the middle of the Atlantic or even bigger. Bedbugs can lie dormant for up to 24 months without food. They're out to get us all, man. They have evolved over time and can survive the most extreme element. That and crows have facial recognition. They remember you. Sounds totally out there, but it's true. Edit 1. Well dang. Thanks all. Crows are indeed mysterious birds. I jotted what I could down of the story on Halloween morning. Crows are terrifying. Fixed a grammar issue. Edit 2. Why this is a conspiracy? Because they sound like a government experiment gone wrong. Superbugs that can't be killed by most pesticides and can live for 2 years without food. Birds that can recognize you, travel in murders and stalk you. Sounds very sea-fish to me. There is a high security vault somewhere in the frozen tundra. I seriously think it is in Antarctica. That is full of seeds. Just seeds of almost every known plant species, donated by world governments. In case an apocalypse event happens and we need to repopulate that one type of grape. Operation Mockingbird. The CIA infiltrated both the American and the international news media for propaganda purposes. Makes you think twice when you see intelligence officers giving their hot take on current events via mainstream cable news networks. From the Operation Mockingbird Wiki and Church Committee findings, the CIA currently maintains a network of several hundred foreign individuals around the world who provide intelligence for the CIA and at times attempt to influence opinion through the use of covert propaganda. These individuals provide the CIA with direct access to a large number of newspapers and periodicals, scores of press services and news agencies, radio and television stations, commercial book publishers, and other foreign media outlets. For domestic media, the report states, approximately 50 of the agency assets are individual American journalists or employees of US media organizations. Of these, fewer than half are accredited by US media organizations. The remaining individuals are non-accredited freelance contributors and media representatives abroad. More than a dozen United States news organizations and commercial publishing houses formerly provided cover for CIA agents abroad. A few of these organizations were unaware that they provided this cover.